In other news, it's now been 20 years since the tragedy of 9/11. Nearly 3,000 people murdered in the largest coordinated terror attack in history, where Al-Qaeda terrorists hijacked 4 flights and crashed them into the World Trade Center towers, the Pentagon, and an area near Pennsylvania. It's believed that the 4th crash was intended for the White House or the Capitol building. But 2 decades later, many still doubt the official narrative, particularly in the Middle East. And after the recent mismanagement in Afghanistan, trust is falling even lower. So what can be done? Here with more is research fellow at the Institute for Counterterrorism at the IDC Herzliya and former senior staff member in the U.S. Congress, Dr. Fadi Essmaeel. Dr. Essmaeel, thank you so much for being with us. Now, what did we learn? What were the lessons from 9/11? Dangers of radical Islam, for example?
That is a question that there are books written about this, and there are conferences held, and it's discussing many lessons, of course, or rather many impressions that people had on the tactical levels, the operational levels, the strategic and grand strategic, and even the spiritual levels. And I would say that the event of 9/11 was every bit an event that happened inside people's cognitive space, every bit as it happened in the physical sphere, which is how terrorism works. It is the idea that you imprint a very large imprint on a populace mindset, psyche, by committing a physical act of violence. And this is basically even the definition of terrorism, in a way. So when we ask what are the lessons, I would say what are the changes and what are the transformations that happened in people's consciousness following the events, almost unbelievable events of 9/11. I will try and take the viewers back to that day and how they felt and how they processed what they saw on television, which looked almost like a movie scene. Only it wasn't, unfortunately. I was actually in New York City a few days after the event. I was in Pier 91, where the command center was created, and at the time, it was something that all of us, even those of us who anticipated an attack, and anticipated an attack on New York, and even an attack on the World Trade Center, even us, we were trying hard to understand what went on here. And the outcomes and the repercussions and the shockwaves of that event in human history, we find it in art, we find it in the movies, we find it in social relationships inside countries in the West and in the East, in the relationships between the Muslim world and the West. We're still feeling the shockwaves today, and it is my opinion that we'll continue to feel them for many years to come.
Well, so that's actually, I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's actually where I wanted to press you, is how the United States can actually go about to turn things around in terms of the mistrust, especially coming from the Middle East, with the internet and spreading a lot of these conspiracy theories, things like that. The belief in the United States' response in the Middle East has seemed to plummet. Can Biden's push, for example, to declassify FBI documents, I think the first document that just came out recently about Saudi Arabia's involvement, could this series of declassifications actually help in this effort to bring people closer together around this issue? No?
While I agree with the declassification, and I agree with, I'm a kind of civil rights nuts. I believe in transparency and give the public everything. And only secrecy the only place where I accept secrecy where it has direct tactical implications. Otherwise, just let the public know everything. But that said, and supporting President Biden's decision on this issue and supporting his decision to withdraw from Afghanistan, all of that, it won't make a difference. Because as somebody said, the claim it was Einstein, you can't reason people out of positions that they did not reason their way into. And let me tell you, as a government official for almost 20 years, I've met many people who are caught up in what are basically conspiracy theories, and I'm not belittling that. I've met some very intelligent, very educated, well-meaning, patriotic types who really believe, for example, that 9/11 was an inside job, or that the CIA made it happen, or what. I mean, or some people even believe it didn't happen. I mean, this is how, and it does not, from my experience, even if you bring them all the technical knowledge that exists, all the engineering knowledge, all the answers to all possible questions that they have, and those answers are available, and they're available on the internet, and they have been available for more than 12 years. People will believe what they need to believe. And we hear it all the time. I'm sure you hear it every day being in the media. People need to believe in something, and it does not matter how much data you give them, they will still believe in it. And this is one of the issues that I teach when I talk about crisis management, is how important it is to control the narrative with facts, with transparency, from before the incident even happens. Because you don't want the nonsense to take hold of people's consciousness and people's cognitive operations. Once they are caught up in some kind of a belief, then it's done.
All right. Dr. Fadi Essmaeel, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.